onwards with the acrylics and the acrylic pens. He did use white. Actually, this one hasn't got so much white in it, but I do like the fact that he used white. It gives a sort of brightness and luminosity. So the first thing I'm going to do is to paint the houses with white acrylic, the fronts of the houses, so, or the fronts and sides, I suppose. So a bit more kind of definitely more opaque colour. I'm going to go over the top of some of my drawing because I'll be able to get that in later on. And really this is just quite sort of heavy body acrylic. It immediately sort of lifts everything, I think. And I do really feel it's specific, very specific, some of these things to him. He was a very kind of, you know, he's a very recognisable painter in amongst all the other expressionists. There's that one, and then on this side as well. So nice and white and solid and opaque. And maybe the front of this house here. So that's the first thing. So it's already kind of lifted it up. Now we're going to do a little bit of what with blending actually. So I'm going to show you a good way to blend. If I can get the right brush. I've got one brush in my hand and one brush, well, I've got one brush in one hand and one brush in the other hand, and we're going to just soften colours down. With the acrylics it's not quite like the acrylic inks because they're not so watery, and so we have to do something different with those. So the first thing is I'm going to look at the house. I'm going to, because this is quite dark, I'm going to lighten it from the bottom up. So I'm going to do a sort of opposite thing. So I'll mix up some of that light pinky reddy colour. And there we go. And then I've got my brush in my hand. And I'm going to just put a lighter colour down so we start to get some of the sense of light and dark. And then I'm going to use a darker red above that, like so. Bring it down, and very quickly with my clean brush trustily in my hand we're going to blend. So you get a nice, you see his work, he does a lot of blending, a lot of tonal work, I think, and it's a really lovely way to do it as well. So you get a nice, it's very, I'm going to say it's very painterly actually. And the same here, so we're going to use a dark colour here. You have to remember to clean your blending brush actually, because it's easy to to have it dirty, and then you've got the original colour on there which you don't really want. So a bit of orange down there. Sometimes you can just blend it actually just with your brush like that. So you get a gradient of tone basically, and perhaps the same here. So I'm going to use a darker orange on the top here, and you can leave it as a shadow if it's got a hard edge. That will depend on what you're looking at. I actually can't see anything on my picture, so I'm sort of able to just do what I like, make it up. But I'm going to put in maybe a hard edge there like that, and maybe a softer, a lighter orange on the other side, and then soften it away. I'll take another clean brush. That's what happens, you end up getting a million dirty brushes, and so that you're getting this sense of kind of, it gives you a lovely sense of form actually. So onto the trees. As you can see, I've already put in some of the leaves, and I've painted them yellow. He doesn't do this all the time. He uses he makes texture for natural things as well, but I think he did this quite a lot, and again I'm going to build up with a bit of with acrylic, so I need a darker green, and I'm going to start to make this light by making some of this darker, like this. Again, I can paint it flat, and then I can paint into it to give it more of a sense of form. So I'm painting all around my yellow leaves so that the dark is revealing the light leaves. And I think I'm going to make this bit even lighter, so I'm going to choose my paler green. I hope this will work. Posca pen, not too bad. And you know, you can make these kind of scribbly marks that looks a bit more like foliage, maybe even putting a little bit of dark down there. So again, that's blending on its own almost. And on the other side here, a darker area here, a lighter area where it's the light's coming down, the sun's coming down or whatever. Again, you can sort of see from the picture that there must be quite a strong light because of how white the front of the houses are. So again, working into them, looking at, let's find another brush and making sure it's clean, looking at the lights and darks and textures as well. So I'm going to use a really dark green. Mix up. Well, you can mix your acrylic inks with your acrylics if you want to. This is all compatible with each other. So again, quite bold. And here, letting it soften away a bit like I did the acrylic inks. Well, it's very much like that. So you can, if you use the acrylic paint watery, you'll get that sort of nice dark effect. So what next? So then we can work onto this roof here. One more, have another layer for the roof. I think I'll use my square brush. And I'm going to make this yellow as opposed to orange, so sorry, orange as opposed to red on this side. So I'm going to work upwards again. So I'm going to use a darker sort of red, and again a bit of orange, like so. And again, this is the other way, like I was saying before, you can blend as you're painting into it. It works perfectly well. Now you might have noticed that I've got a line across here. That's because I noticed the evening after I'd worked out your demonstration that my horizon wasn't straight, and I can't bear a horizon that's not straight. So I had to come back in and straighten my horizon, use a ruler. There's absolutely no reason why you can't use a ruler. And I'm going to use, I'm going to put in a really dark line. I'm going to make this very dark to light, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to mix up my colours. I've got darker blue and a blue with a bit of white in, I think. Mixing it up. Plenty of colour on my brush. Always check that you've got the colour you want. Always check you've mixed it in properly. And you could use a bit of masking tape, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to start to work really dark in the sea so that it pushes everything forward. The darkness will push everything else forward. And then keeping on, remember you can build it up. So if it doesn't quite look enough to begin with, then do another layer. Maybe I'll take a smaller brush for that little thin area, like this. Oops. So very dark, and then oops, going a bit wild. And then taking my lighter one that I've mixed up, and again there'll be, I think, another layer on this one, but using my lighter tint, if you like, putting it on, putting it higher up, making sure you work quite fast on this so that you'll be able to blend. And then a clean brush, clean and dry brush, which can be, oops, make sure that your brush is clean, and blend. Need a lot of brushes, as you can see. So I'm blending in so you get a sort of gradation of tone, but the dark is the important bit, and you can see it's very sort of quite dynamic. Make sure you cover up the line you drew with a ruler, and making sure that you're working around the shapes. This is quite a kind of solid way to work. I don't know how else to describe it, but you know, it definitely gives his that gives a sense of his work. I'm just going to as well put in the land here. So again, I've used keep going backwards and forwards for my different materials as well. And so that's looking quite good. And then really just building and building, looking at the lights and darks, looking at the more information. So I've used a pen to draw. I'm going to use a pen to draw these dark, you know, lines of the house. I suppose they're I don't know, they're beams or something. And you know, I'm sort of making it how I want it. I'm not too worried about it has to be. It's not a photographic representation by any means. So again, you know, it's up to you to simplify and to get the sense of what you're looking at as well. So I think we will go on to the last one, the one that's nearly finished. So here we go. So this is my final one. I'm going to add a few details, looking at the light and dark of this picture, which is very stark because it's black and white and obviously lots of shadows. I see that chimney is very nice. It's kind of, again, it's so dark that it's pushing forward the roof. So I'm going to use a darker colour. Never got the right brush, clearly. There's a good one. I'm using acrylic inks that I've still got by my side, trustily, so that it actually is. It's not as dark as on here. I'm taking into account the fact that this is a photograph that's black and white and taken a lot of information away. But I am going to make the top of the roof a tiny bit lighter as well, because that will help to push that back as well. So the dark pushes the light forward. So I'm just working into that. Again, I'm not going to blend. I'm going to just make a textury kind of effect. That's quite good. This is not too bad. This is obviously sitting back onto the sea. My sea, or rather the photo sea, is quite light. I've chosen to do this very dark sea because of trying to imitate what he does. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to work on the foreground here. I'm going to do some more shadowy bits. So the darkness, I've started to do darkness coming from either side that makes this light bit lighter, if you see what I mean. So just have to find a good colour for this. I think I'm very radical now. I'm going to use a bit of purple. No, I'm not. I'm going to use a bit of blue, and I'm going to see how this goes. So I'm putting a bit of blue on, then I'm going to, actually it's quite nice because I see that colour in his paintings a lot. So I'm going to just soften it away like I did before. And actually it's quite nice because the blue kind of relates to the blue in the sea. So, and I've got this nice control with the pen as well. So looking at some of the darker areas, because it's standing over, it's shadowing over here next to the various buildings and trees which are making shadows on the ground. Right, yeah, I like that blue, that was unintended. And then on this side as well, so it's quite far along. And then softening away. These Posca pens are very adaptable and useful. Not just Posca, there are other makes as well. Because I've got a big contrast between the blue and the orangey colour, I'm going to slightly darken the orangey colour in the middle, rather towards the middle, so that it's not such a sort of a stark difference. So I'll use acrylics for that, and searching out a good pen, and I will mix a sort of a nice dark orangey brown, so red with a tiny bit of green in it, which will darken it down. There we go. So again, just trying to give a bit more information, so very kind of wet on the dry paper, and then softening away again so that they become a little bit blended like that. And again, softened away. Could put a lighter colour on there, doing this for quickness. And a bit more of my brown on this side. And I think we're nearly done. You've got much more of a sort of complete picture by doing this. And I'm going to also use my dry pen, my dry brush to blend, and blend in here as well. Give it a bit of texture, which it certainly has got. Looks almost like water in the photo, but it can't be. And maybe just a light orange added to the middle bit here. So again, a bit more interest in it because it's so far forward, it's so kind of visible as part of the picture because it's so far forward, and there's quite a lot of it as well, so giving a little bit of information there. So there you are. I think he's a really lovely painter to look at, so it's worth looking him up and getting some kind of information and getting some inspiration from him, and I'm excited to see what you can do.